everyone, and welcome back to the Itsy Bitsy Zoomcast. I'm Liz Charlene Tate, the lead coach from the Western Professional Development Center. I'm here today with my lovely colleague, Sheila. We're in season 4 of the Itsy Bitsy Zoomcast, and this season is called Mythbusters. And today we're talking about kindergarten readiness. It's not what you think. So how are you doing, Sheila?
I'm good. I'm really excited about this episode. As always, one of our student teachers helps us to host the episode. So Ashley, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Ashley Marini. I am in my practicum right now, and I'm doing my practicum at the Holyoke YMCA preschool.
Thanks, Ashley. We're really glad to have you back on Itsy Bitsy. And with us today, we have 2 kindergarten teachers, our first kindergarten teachers ever on the Itsy Bitsy Zoomcast. So welcome to you both. Lynn, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Lynn Lajadri, and I'm a kindergarten teacher. I have been for the past 15 years, even though I don't like to admit that I'm that old. And I'm in Chicopee. And I'm lucky enough that I have Sheila's daughter in my kindergarten class, who every time you talk, all I can see is her face.
Maria, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Maria Garcia, and I'm a kindergarten teacher at Jackson Street in Northampton.
Welcome. Thanks for being here. So when Liz and I were talking about this idea of Mythbusters, we kind of went down this rabbit hole of our pet peeves about the early childhood world and all the things we wished people knew. And I said to Liz, I said, I gotta tell you, when I brought Penny to meet her kindergarten teacher for the first time, I was so nervous because, Lynn, I needed to tell you that I am a professor of early childhood and my kid doesn't know her letters, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, what is this woman gonna think? Because there are some just misconceptions about what kindergarten readiness really is. And when I said that to you, you laughed and you were like, we're not worried about that. Can you tell me more about why that was your response to me when I said she doesn't know her letters?
Honestly, because that's my job. I don't need the kids to come in with the academia. That is really what people, I think, forget about teachers, is that while there's this huge emphasis on the social emotional learning parts and the things of school, my real job is to teach your kid how to read and how to write and how to be a student. If they were to come in not knowing a single letter, a single number, which happens to about 80% of the students that we have, and P.S., your kid did not know any letters, you're selling her short. If they come in as little humans and I don't have to, spend the time focusing on, please keep your hands to yourself, please don't bite your friend, please don't lick them, things like that. And I say that jokingly, but we all know that that's actually what comes out of my mouth. And that focusing on the academic parts would be easy. I could care less if they came in not knowing a single academic portion of the curriculum. If they're able to function in a room with other humans, that's awesome. That's what I look for.
Yeah, that was a huge relief to me. And you're right, she did know a handful of letters, but I really wanted to kind of gauge what was going to happen, because she had a lot of play skills. And I also noticed that there was a lot of opportunities for play in your classroom. And Maria, I'm wondering, tell us about your kindergarten room and kind of what skills you look for when the kiddos come in.
So it's really helpful if children know how to advocate for themselves. So I think to reassure children that if they need something, if something happens, that they should speak up and find somebody to tell. They could tell a grown-up if they don't feel comfortable telling a grown-up, they can tell a friend, if kids are feeling shyer. And I think as they get closer to kindergarten, I think to have children have practice with going to different spaces. So like if you go to the Y or something, to let them stay at childcare for half an hour or an hour, or to go to a friend's house for a play date, so that they get used to separating very gradually and slowly before they have to come into a classroom and spend the whole day, not being with their family. Even though a lot of kids have gone to preschool, but it's just school is a different place, a bigger building with bigger kids. So it's just good practice for them to learn how to separate successfully.
Thank you for that. I know that when my son, who's now 16, we were being introduced to Jackson Street School. I just remember looking at the 3 kindergarten classrooms that were there, and just my heart sang to see that they looked similar to what his preschool classroom looked like. And that, but it was similar, but there were these other new pieces, and I could tell that it was going to be a gentle transition. It wasn't going to be sitting at a desk, and that felt really organic and natural to me. It felt really good. From Ashley's perspective, being a preschool teacher, just today you had a lesson you were with your students in dramatic play, and you had this whole elaborate imaginary world happening. And so in there, you were really focused on their social skills, how they were working together and doing those things that both of these teachers are describing. So what do you think of when you're thinking about the fact that eventually your preschool kids will be moving on to kindergarten?
I think that it's definitely, so I've been there probably for about 4 or 5 months now, and when I first got there, they were very dependent on the teachers, and during snack time, can you open this? Can you open this? Can you clean this mess up? And we've really been practicing on their social emotional skills, and we haven't really been on the ABCs and on the letters and numbers like that. So I've seen a lot of changes with the kids actually. Like they grab the scissors on their own now, and they will cut on their own, and they'll use a little plastic knife on their own now. And we always are trying to get them to use your words. Like, don't just scream or hit. Use your words. Tell him why you're upset with him. And there's definitely been a good positive change with the children, and that's really good to see. But is that like kind of the main focus when they transfer to kindergarten, is just social emotional? They want those social emotional skills, and yeah, that's pretty much my question, is what type of social emotional skills they're looking for too.
Maria, would you like to answer that first?
So definitely what Ashley is talking about is all important, being able to recognize feelings and label feelings. And of course it starts with them being able to recognize and label their own feelings, and then moving much later on to take the perspective of another person. So that is definitely major, and those are all great skills to have, not just in kindergarten, but in life, to just be able to explain to somebody how you're feeling. So I think those are wonderful skills to highlight in preschool and for them to bring into kindergarten.
Lynn, how about for you? If you could tell practicum students one thing about what kindergarteners hope that children experience in preschool, what do you really want them to know? I find that I'm having conversations with family childcare providers or preschool teachers who feel like they have to incorporate things like worksheets and letter tracing in the name of kindergarten readiness. But in reality, what we're hearing from you and Maria is that they're going to get that later. It's not developmentally appropriate at age 3 and 4 to push those expectations. So what do you hope they experience in preschool before they come into your magical kindergarten world?
Besides the ability to advocate for themselves or to speak up for themselves, it would be things like self-help opportunities. Can I put a jacket on? Can I open my own snack? If I can't open my own snack, can I ask permission instead of just going and like things like holding a utensil, which could be any utensil, whether to feed yourself, to write with, ability to cut. Fine motor skills are a huge thing we wish that they would be stronger in when they came to kindergarten, because if we have to take time to actually stop and teach a student how to hold a tool, you can't even imagine how much out of parts of the day that takes. We're doing a lot more fine motor things now than we have ever seen in the past. Used to come in 3 or 4 kids didn't know how to hold. Now it's 95% of the class can't. So if they would work on, if students could come in more being able to do things for themselves, whether that be through vocalization or physical abilities, that would make the transition to kindergarten much easier. Because I know you see, she doesn't come home with your daughter doesn't come home with a lot of papers and things because we don't do a lot of that kind of stuff. We're more hands-on, working on activities together, lots of wipe off board, marker material, things that are more fun. I teach kindergarten because I have the attention span of a kindergartner and always have. So I like to move things fast and stay. But if they could come in with I would call them self-help opportunities and be stronger in those areas across globally, that would make the transition a lot easier.
Mhm.
Music to my ears, I have to say, and maybe this is my little soapbox, but I will confess that one of my first experiences teaching with 3-year-olds at a preschool, I thought I was supposed to focus on the letter B for week 2, and then the letter C, and very quickly the director pulled me aside and said, "Liz, we don't do that here," and I needed to learn, and I was brand new. And had a lot to figure out. And it was at this particular preschool where I really began to understand that what curriculum should really be about in early childhood, in preschool settings, is all about learning how to articulate your feelings and your needs, that the conflicts they have, the issues around sharing something, that is the curriculum. It's not about learning how to write your name or remembering what letter comes after E. It's really the transitions and those crunchy times. That's where the teaching and the magic can happen in a preschool setting. And I always think that that's the place. Those are the skills that you want your kiddos to have, so that when they go to kindergarten, they can attend to what comes next. And I also love that you both talked about what's developmentally appropriate, because I think sometimes people think that this idea of academia in preschool is developmentally appropriate, but it's not. And I wonder for either one of you, and maybe Maria, if you have something to add to that about the idea that about what's developmentally appropriate and what kids are actually ready to do at 4 or 5 versus when they enter into kindergarten.
Yeah. I think a great thing is, books, like reading books together, talking about books together, reading the same book 100 times. It doesn't matter. They don't need to try to read words or find words or anything like that. I mean, if they're into doing that, that's great. But even just like you were saying, if they learn how to just, sometimes if you're somewhere, don't hand them your iPhone, don't hand them an iPad, hand them a book, and okay, we have a few minutes, look at this for a few minutes, and just let them look at it and try to make sense of the pictures. I think anything we can do with that helps literacy, and anything we can do with language. So going old school, rhyming, nursery rhymes, poetry, singing, singing games like Wibbly Wobbly Woo, An Elephant Sat on You, those kind of things. It sounds like it's just silly, but it's not. It's really building phonemic awareness, and it's building a sense of what is happening with words. That part of it is getting taken off and changed, and the other part isn't. And those are all precursors to learning to read. So just playing with language, having fun with language, and talking to your kid. And it doesn't have to be something special. If you're cooking, have them cook with you. You're in the supermarket, have them find, the apples for you. Little things like that. Just constantly talking and observing and seeing what they're interested in and expanding on that.
And it just brings me back to this theme that's been coming up through this series, that the real drive is interaction and relationships. Interaction and relationships is where learning occurs. It's where we learn to be a person. It's where we learn to function. It's where we develop a positive self-concept and see ourselves as a positive member of a group and have that sense of belonging. And I feel like that's so important. And oftentimes when we talk or hear people talk about early math or early literacy, they think that means doing 1st and 2nd grade work at a younger age, when in reality, Maria's examples are so true. When we sing, when we rhyme, when we play, when we talk, when we read, that is when we are getting children their early literacy skills. I observed Ashley today, and I just kept thinking, oh, her future students are going to have such great comprehension, because she was building their imagination. She was playing with the children. She was so deep. Ashley, I'm saying she like you're not here. Ashley, I watched you in dramatic play with your students, and you were so deeply immersed in their pretend world that I was gone too. I was in there with you for 30 minutes. I was late for my next thing. But because of that, the children were imagining, and that imagining is what leads to really good reading comprehension. When they can make that movie in their head based off of the words and playing off of each other, you were making that happen for them developmentally appropriately through play. And they were fishing. They were using their gross motor skills with the fishing rods and their fine motor skills to crank them. And then they were talking about the types of seafood they eat at home. And it was just everything you could want in this one very simple play area. And when I think about how that happened this morning, and then listen to Lynn and Maria talk about what they hope when children come to kindergarten, like, Ashley, I hope this is super validating for you, that you, in your practicum, in your first year with preschoolers, you are designing opportunities that are truly getting your children ready for kindergarten. Do you see that? I'm like so pumped.
I know.
You're actively doing it, and it's beautiful.
So, we're about to wrap up. These itsy bitsy episodes go so fast, but kindergarten readiness, it's not what you think. And it just means a lot to Liz and I to have two amazing kindergarten teachers here talking about how much you love your work and how much you love the children. And do you want to each leave us with one piece of advice for the practicum students who are doing what Ashley's doing right now and trying to get kids ready for kindergarten?
I would say just have fun and, share what your interests and passions are, and let them share what their interests and passions are.
My piece of advice is don't question yourself. I've learned that probably more over the past 2 years than I have in my entire career. Sometimes it's in truth and just as a metaphor, shut the door, shut everybody else out. You know what you're doing, and the children are why you're there. You're going to hear the noise. You're going to hear what everybody else is saying, whether it be parents or administration or social media. Ignore it all and shut the door. Never question yourself. If you're there for the kids, and that's it.
That's it.
Thank you.
That's it. I want to thank you all for being on this really special episode. This is a topic that we've been eager to tackle, and all of your expertise just means so much. And the serendipity feeling that I have over watching Ashley just excel this morning, and then the two of you reinforcing that what she's doing is the right stuff, it feels really good for Liz and I. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for being a part of this episode. We're going to close now, but we'll be back for episode 5, which is talking about social emotional learning and approaches to play, and some myths and misconceptions around that. And it's very tied to this now that I'm saying it out loud. They're all tied to each other, aren't they? But have a wonderful rest of your day. Maria and Lynn, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join us. And Ashley, thank you so much for what you're doing and for being present with us today. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.